Okay, we're back again. We were ending here before on understanding your paycheck, and funny enough, I guess in the matter and just the amount of work I've been doing on this, I've kind of got lost in everything going on here, and I have discovered why this was crashing every time I hit this taxes is that I forgot that I had actually moved it to this section. I initially had it in Money Basics, and then I decided based on the way the app was structured and what information I ended up putting in there, I thought it was better off to put it in this section instead. But I never actually removed the button that I had in the first one, so that's why I was crashing. So that's cool. That's not an error. Then I can't really blame Android Studio on that one. That one's my fault, right? The other one I do want to show you though is this particular view that does screw up Android Studio, I guess you would say, because this one I've extensively tried to figure out, and I cannot seem to find anything that is something I caused to in order to make it not work. But we're going to continue on here. So we have Medicare. This isn't something necessarily younger people need to know about just yet, as you know, Medicare normally is something that kicks in when you're older, but it is good to understand the basics of that as it is taken out of your paycheck now to pay into the system. So it's good to know where money in your paycheck is going, even though it's not necessarily something you would use as a young adult. So then the next section, taxes, as we were talking about, here's where we have the taxes section. So this is the working section. I'm going to go ahead and remove the other button before I turn this in, obviously, and fix that. And we have just a basic understanding of how taxes work here. And then I have two other sections that go much deeper into the differences between federal taxes and state taxes, because a lot of people don't actually know that there are some significant differences between the two and how they affect your paycheck specifically, or just how they affect you in general with your take-home pay. So that's the federal taxes section. Here's the state taxes section. State taxes is a bit more simple than federal taxes because federal taxes is kind of where all the layers of complications come in with what you owe at the end of the year compared to state and local taxes. So that's a little bit easier to explain. And then we have terminology. Now, terminology is the section that you see over here. I purposely kept this up because what happens is when you'll notice all of the other sections, the spacing for the buttons is pretty even. It's pretty uniform. They all start the same distance away from the side. You know, they all have equal distances apart, pretty much. But I've left this section in here. Sorry, let me go back here. Terminology. I left terminology over here to the right because this section, for whatever reason, when I try to actually go to touch these buttons or to format them to be able to have the correct spacing, it totally freezes up the entire application. And I'll have to show it to you at the end simply because I don't want to stop in the middle of this presentation to restart it. But it's really weird. But in here we have the different terminology you'll see on your paycheck. And you know, from everything from gross earnings, you know, FICA, which is you know, your Social Security paid out. You have your state and federal taxes, tax withholdings, etc., workman's comp, insurance, and Medicare as well. You know, 401ks, which is a separate topic. I'm going to touch on it in a little bit here. Vacation time, all sorts of stuff in here, which I think that this is actually a really great section because this is probably, you know, this affects every single person who's working in the United States, regardless if you want to get into more advanced stuff like investing or any of that stuff. This affects everybody, and this is a great section to have because terminology can get a little confusing at the end of the day when you have so many things to keep track of. Then we have Social Security as the last section here. So let's see. Now we have advanced topics in finance. This is where we get into some things that would be considered a little more advanced, obviously, but more so the larger purchases, you know, mortgages, loans, etc. And this gets into some of the nuances of how each loan would break down and some of the different little details that are good to know. Investments, we went with stocks, bonds, and annuities. Obviously, there's a lot more investments we could go through, but again, with the amount of time I had to really present the information and get everything working, I didn't have a lot of time to go deep into each topic because honestly, I mean, you could spend months